Hey everyone, welcome back to Clutch Situations. So the grass is wet. What the heck does he mean? The grass is wet, meaning that I'm not too inclined to mow, because any of you who mow grass know that when the grass is wet, it's a huge pain in the butt to deal with. And so as a result of that, it's time to make a video. And this is a video that I talked about in my last video. And this might be a surprise to a lot of people because I feel the need to revamp my top 10 despite the fact that I made a top 10 video in February. And that was like 4 months ago. So what the heck is going on here? Why are you making a new top 10 video? Well, I've had experiences over the last couple months in using my collection and in trying out new mechanical pencils that has really been kind of a catharsis for me in terms of I've really done a better job of figuring out what I value as a mechanical pencil user. And it's different from what the old top 10 was all about. I think that the problem that I have with my old top 10 is that I was not considering aspects of the mechanical pencil writing experience that are important to me that I was just kind of sort of ignoring because, oh, it's high quality construction. So therefore I'm obligated to include this because it's such high quality construction. But folks, the truth is that there are lots of things that we value in mechanical pencils, and in nailing down a little bit better about what I value in mechanical pencils, I sort of feel like I have stronger criteria and a new top 10 list that is a lot more reflective of what I value in mechanical pencils. And I just want to address that for a second because commenters on the channel have always asked the question, and they've done so as well recently. And those questions are, is this list your personal list, or is this list your recommendations for me? And I think that that's a false dichotomy because the answer is both of those things are true. This is my personal subjective list of what I value in mechanical pencils, but I would feel confident recommending any of these mechanicals for someone based upon what they value. And that's what I really want to emphasize in this video, that folks, what you value matters. It isn't my job to tell you what you should value. You should be looking at all the available, oh, here's the scientist coming out in me. You should be looking at all the available evidence and making a judgment call based upon what you think makes the most sense for you. And so that leads to our initial question for this video. What is it that I value, that I really appreciate in a mechanical pencil? And I'm going to list out 5 things, the 5th one of which I don't think that I've done a very good job of emphasizing as how important it is to me. And so what are we talking about here? Well, I value in mechanical pencils, I value their construction, what they're made out of. I prefer higher quality materials like metal, brass, steel, aluminum to plastic. And that's not a hard and fast rule because as I list out these things, it is the combination of these things that matter for me. And then, of course, highly related to construction, but construction, what I mean by construction, I'm focusing on materials, like what it's made out of, but then how those materials are arranged and whether or not you have a quality arrangement of all the components that make for a really well-engineered instrument makes a difference for me. Of course, part of the reason why we love mechanical pencils is because the features that they offer that you can't get in a wood case pencil. The primary one being that you can have lead that is continually being pushed out of the pencil without having to sharpen it all the time. That's why we like mechanical pencils in the first place. But also things like pocket clips and erasers and lead hardness indicators, all those sorts of things. Aesthetics matters. There are pencils that I have at different parts of the top 10 that just because they are aesthetically pleasing, I may put them at a higher part of the list than another pencil. And then one thing that has not been on the list that I think really needs to be on the list is weight. Weight is the big thing that I've really been neglecting in my evaluation. I think I've had this subconscious understanding that weight is important to me. But you're going to see that there are going to be a couple pencils that are going to leave the top 10 list today, and they're leaving because of the weight issue, is what it comes down to. Now, that's not the only issue, but it's one of the main issues for me that if I can't write with a writing utensil for an extended period of time, if I'm getting cramps in my hands because something is heavy, that's an issue for me. You might be different. It's okay if you're different. Some people like a weightier pencil. And if that's true for you, I'm not a professional artist. I'm not a professional draftsperson. Okay, I'm just a scientist who happens to like to write with mechanical pencils. I'm not an engineer, certainly not a mechanical engineer. So whatever is important to you, don't lose sight of that, is what I would say. Now, you can see we have the old top 10 list from February over here on the left. Check out that video if you're interested in making a comparison about how I talk about these pencils then versus how I talk about them now. I don't think it's going to be that different, because what I value in these pencils isn't really changing at all. It's just a question of whether or not my impressions of the combinations of all those features means that something should be on my top 10 list. And let's be honest, people like top 10 lists, but they're kind of artificial in that these are not objective lists. We got to acknowledge that right off the bat. This is my subjective opinion. And if your opinion differs from mine, that's okay. Make peace with it. Okay? If there's something on the list that you don't like, that's okay. Maybe you wouldn't put it on your list. If there's something if there's something missing from this list, or if I'm taking something off of the list that you don't think should be taken off, well, that's okay. I mean, anything that I take off the list is going to go to the honorable mentions list, and I'm going to make a video coming up pretty soon that will go through what my honorable mentions are for great mechanical pencils, so stay tuned for that. But let's go ahead and start going through the new top 10 list so we can see what's the same and what's different. Well, hold on. This looks the same. At number 10, you have the Zebra Delgard Type ER. I'm going to add another high-quality Delgard to this list, the LX. I haven't reviewed the LX yet. I'm going to be reviewing the LX on the channel coming up. It is a solidly constructed mechanical pencil made of, I think, entirely metal pocket clip. It's difficult sometimes to tell, but I'm pretty sure this upper section is metal. We have a really unique grip down here that, for me, fattens at the appropriate place for writing. You have the Delgard mechanism. If I'm going to recommend the Delgard Type ER to people, which I do, missing a pocket clip, but it has this gimmicky sort of mechanism where if you turn the pencil to erase, the eraser pops out. I also happen to think that it has a surprisingly good grip for this style of pencil. And so these are upgraded versions of the Delgard. The Type ER is referring to that unique erasing mechanism. The LX has this really strong body construction and this really interesting grip that you don't see in a lot of mechanical pencils. I feel confident not only in recommending these to people, but they are pencils that I keep coming back to and continue to write with, and also pretty affordable. You're looking at $12 to $16 for them. Okay, so keep affordability in mind as well. Next on the list, we're going to do a little bit of a switcheroo here. And so maybe I should just write these two down simultaneously, because really I'm just switching some things, but I'll talk about each of them individually. We have the Platinum Zero Shin, also known as the Stettler Integrity. I think what happened here is that Stettler sold the rights to the Integrity to Platinum Corporation of Japan. And so here's the Platinum Zero Shin. For those of you who are concerned about losing quite a bit, like as much as a centimeter of lead from a lead stick as you're writing with it, the reason why that's happening is because the clutch is up inside the guts of the pencil. And when the last bit of lead as it's feeding through the pencil gets to that clutch, the clutch will eventually let go of that end and you'll get a little centimeter of lead that'll pop out the bottom of the pencil, and that's annoying to people. Well, there's a lot of history of that issue being worked on mechanical pencils, specifically the AutoPoint All-American is an example, and many of these old-style twist mechanical pencils have this feature that you twist to extend the lead. It may be difficult to see on camera. Let me see if I can get it to focus, and also there are little slits on the end of the AutoPoint All-American, and those slits serve as an additional way to grip the lead of the pencil so that you're more likely to be able to use that lead all the way down to the last bitty bit. And the Platinum Zero Shin has that feature. We have a conical lead sleeve, but if you look closely, there's a little notch in the conical lead sleeve. And that forms a little bit of springy resistance that grips the lead to be able to use it through the last millimeter, essentially. Hence the name Zero Shin. You're using it all the way up until there's virtually none of it left. The Platinum Zero Shin is also feature-rich in that it has this rubberized sort of conical grippy grip that you can stick these sorts of grips on wood case pencils, and people have for a long time if they need a stronger grip. Very strong pocket clip, metal pocket clip. We have an extendable eraser, which is always a nice feature to have if you're taking a pencil on the go and you don't necessarily want to carry around a dedicated eraser. So Platinum Zero Shin, Stettler Integrity, I highly recommend it. I think it's a great package. It's pretty cheap too. You can get it for a low cost. Comes in navy and burgundy and black. I don't have a black version. I'm waiting to get one of the classic Stettler Integrities in that color. What about number 8? Well, I said that there's going to be a switch, right? And so moving up to number 8 is the Retro51 Tornado. Okay, so we have retro in the name, right? And so this is Retro51 is a corporation that is sort of hearkening back to that more retro style of writing instrument that existed in the past. The Tornado is kind of their flagship model. It comes in hundreds of different colors and patterns and varieties. It comes in mechanical pencils, ballpoints, fountain pens, roller balls. I have a Tornado as a roller ball of Apollo 11 that I really like, the Project Apollo pencil, or pen, I should say, and I have that loaded with a Fisher Space Pen cartridge, which is one of my favorite inks. But this example of a Retro51 Tornado is one that I just picked up because every year in DC there is a Cherry Blossom Festival. And Farney's Pens, if we look closer at this, I need to use two hands so that I can try to get the focus. It says Farney's Pens, Retro51, and every year Farney makes a new Cherry Blossom Festival to commemorate, or a new Cherry Blossom pencil to commemorate the festival. And this year's one is in green, olive green. Green is one of my favorite colors. I especially like forest green, but olive green is great as well. And since I'm a biologist, we also have the U.S. Botanical Garden here on the pencil. And so this, I snagged this right away as I saw this new limited edition version of it. And that's the other cool thing. Retro51 being about aesthetics, you can probably find a limited edition Retro51 pencil that is really going to match what you value in terms of your look. It's a conversation starter. Okay, and in this case, this particular one has this sort of hearkening back to a classic pink eraser that I really liked. And so I grabbed it. Okay, so Retro51 Tornado, they're going to run you anywhere from $30 all the way up to $70 for limited editions. But the whole idea behind limited editions is that you get something that there aren't a lot of it and it really matches what you value and what you like. And I love Retro51 Tornado pencils. I'm going to bump it up to number 8. Now is the time to include a pencil on this list that has never been on the list and really should have been on the list much earlier than now, but I didn't really discover it until several months back. And I have to credit viewers of the channel for that because they are really the ones that pointed it out to me. And the new pencil that I just keep coming back to over and over again, and that's sort of something that I want to mention here. If something's leaving this list and if something is being added to the list, it's because I just find myself coming back to using these pencils over and over again. And the one that I'm referring to is the Tombow Monograph. Oh, not done yet. 0. The Tombow Monograph is a shaker-style mechanical pencil that a lot of people are big fans of, but it's all plastic construction, and pardon my opinion, but it's pretty crappy plastic construction in my opinion. Now you can see there's plastic construction on the Monograph Zero here, but the Monograph Zero fixes several of the problems with the standard Monograph, and it really speaks to me as a writing instrument. So you can see we have a knurled grip here, made out of metal. It's a pretty middle-of-the-road knurling, not too soft, not too sharp. I really don't like a soft knurling because it's harder to grip the pencil. I do kind of like a sharper knurling, but it can't be so sharp that it cuts into your fingers. Okay, and so this is a really good compromise knurling, really well balanced. The original Monograph pencil has a really flimsy plastic pocket clip. They've replaced it on the Monograph Zero with a metal pocket clip, and then you've already seen we have a twist-up eraser. It's a very tiny eraser. This is the Tombow Zero eraser, which is a very thin, I think it's like a 2.4 millimeter eraser. Really good for fine detail erasing. And so if I'm working on something, writing something that I need really fine details, not only do I get the benefits of a drafting pencil here, but I also get the benefits of a really fine eraser to do detail work. That doesn't mean that I wouldn't have a dedicated eraser that I would use at the same time, but I just keep coming back to the Monograph Zero, and I really feel like it deserves a place on my top 10, and the fact that I keep using it over and over again, I'll come to the collection on right before I go to school, pick out a pencil for the day, and I just keep coming back to this thing. So I really think that it deserves a place on the top 10. I would recommend it to everyone, especially since it's so cheap. You can get this pencil for $6, and it's a really great deal for $6. So keep that in mind. Now, speaking of value, okay, we're going to continue along on the list, and at number 6 on the list is arguably one of my favorite pencils of all time, the PenTell Sharp P20X series. I have over 3 dozen of this pencil in various limited editions. The pencil you see before you is the limited edition Marble series in red, and that works out really great for me because red and black are my school colors, and so I find myself using this particular pencil quite often. The PenTell Sharp is beloved in the mechanical pencil world because it is utilitarian, wonderful engineering, all wrapped up into a package. Why isn't it higher on the list? It's not higher on the list because you do have to take a couple compromises for that. It's an injection molded plastic. And especially for these limited editions, the outer coating is painted on it. It's not ingrained within the plastic. Okay, so if you look in the internals of this pencil, it's actually clear. Okay. But it does everything that a mechanical pencil should do without any muss or fuss. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, is what I always say about the PenTell Sharp series. And so it's got that great hypodermic 4mm lead sleeve, strong pocket clip that you can remove if you so choose. The grip is pretty basic, but it does get the job done as ribbed hard plastic. And then a classic PenTell Z2-1 eraser. So it's not higher up on the list because it is sort of a cheaper design. Okay, but it's a high quality design that does a lot of what it should do. It's got a great PenTell brass clutch in there that's never going to let you down. It's cheap, and so I really like it. Next. Okay, we got to make a change. Oh my gosh, the sky is falling. The Twisty Precision is coming off of the list. Cats and dogs living together, mass hysteria. Ghostbusters. So, yeah, I'm removing the Twisty Precision from the list. And the reason why I'm removing it from the list is not because it's not a good pencil. Okay, Twisty Precision, made in Taiwan. It's a great value for the price. $25, you get the pencil, which in of itself is a tank and really well designed, but you also get extra leads, you also get extra erasers. It's just a really good package. So why is it leaving the top 10 list? Well, for me, one of the issues that I've always had with the Twisty Precision is that the knurling on the grip is not very grippy. Okay, but more importantly for the Twisty Precision, we're going to come back to this issue of weight. That it's just too heavy for me. And in reaching my catharsis, and especially working with the next pencil on the list, the PenTell Graph 1000 for Pro, let's go ahead and write it down. So coming in at number 5, replacing the Twisty Precision. I will admit I was skeptical. Okay? I didn't think that the silicone nubs on the grip would speak to me. But when I used the Graph 1000 for Pro, I basically said to myself, this pencil is kind of the upgrade to the PenTell Sharp series without sacrificing the lightweight nature of it that I think that for me, I appreciate, and a lot of other mechanical pencil enthusiasts would appreciate as well. And I'll admit I was skeptical. I didn't invest in it until I had worked through a lot of other things. But when I picked one up and used it for a couple weeks, I was like, wow, this is great. And I just see myself, and I have been coming back and back to the Graph 1000 for Pro when I need to grab a pencil. And the Twisty Precision is kind of just sitting there. Not because it's a bad pencil, but because the weighting is an issue. A really big issue for me. And so the PenTell Graph 1000 for Pro has a lot of things that a lot of people look for in mechanical pencils. Precise mechanism with a 4mm lead sleeve. The grip is surprisingly good. These silicone nubs are not too raised, not too recessed. It adds to the grip, but it doesn't detract from it. Granted, the body is a plastic body, but that adds to a really balanced, really nice weight that I really like to it. We have a really strong pocket clip and a lead hardness indicator on the end, as well as a classic PenTell Z2-1 eraser. And so I really love the Graph 1000 for Pro. I'm excited to bring it into the top 10 list. And so we've just added 2 pencils into the top 10 list that have never been there. Let's just keep the ball rolling, shall we? What about for number 4? Bye-bye, Rotring Rapid Pro. Hold on a second, I thought you were a Rotring fanboy. I thought Rotring could do no wrong. What are you doing removing a Rotring pencil from your top 10 list? Well, folks, the top 10 list is pencils that I like. I'm making a subjective opinion on. And yes, I like Rotring pencils. But that doesn't mean that I'm going to always choose them unequivocally. And the same issue that I have with the Twisty Precision is the same issue that I have with the Rotring Rapid Pro. And so it's a little too heavy for my tastes. The knurling on the grip is not as sharp of a knurling as the other Rotring pencils. It has a sliding retractable sleeve, which is a really nice feature, don't get me wrong, but the thing is just so heavy. I get so much hand fatigue writing with this thing that I'm proud to include it as an honorable mention on my honorable mentions list, but I just don't feel like it belongs in my top 10 because the weight issue really is an issue for me. So what's getting bumped up to number 4 instead? Well, a familiar PenTell mechanical pencil, the PenTell Sharp Carry. So PenTell Sharp Carry is another example of really great PenTell design, but with the added benefits of it really being aesthetically pleasing and a conversation starter. It is one of these old style pen cap sort of styles of mechanical pencil, and really strong pocket clip. I mean, this is EDC is basically what this is. I mean, I could see anybody, no matter what they're doing, carrying this around with them in terms of the fact that it is pocket safe, looks really good, kind of a conversation starter. It's also functional in that with the cap off, you can click the lead. They've designed it so with the cap on, you can click the lead. And when you combine all these things together, you end up with a pencil that is just really elegant design and allows you to carry it around with yourself. Now, the lead sleeve is 2 millimeters, not the standard 4mm lead sleeve, but that's a sacrifice that I think most people are willing to make. And this is my olive green limited edition of the PenTell Sharp Carry. What I'm trying to do, and I don't have a ton of money to put in mechanical pencils right now, but what I'm going to try to do is seek out the limited edition PenTell Sharp Carry in orange, which I've been having my eye on for quite some time. And I really love my olive green model. I have this in navy blue in 0.7. I have it in red. And so it's just a really great pencil that is easy to carry around. Also a conversation starter. Definitely deserves a place on the top 10 list. Okay, what else? What other sort of shakeups are we going to have on the list? Well, you'll notice that at the number 3 position on the old list, the Rotring 800 and the Retro51 Sematic were tied. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to give the Retro51 Sematic its own slot. I think what Retro51 did here is they were trying to access a part of the market that they weren't accessing, which is, more of the individual who's interested in precision and more of a analytical look to their pencils. The Retro51 Tornadoes have been known for quite some time to really focus on aesthetics. Now, the Sematic is aesthetically pleasing. Okay, it's sort of reminiscent of course, the Rotring 600. It has a retractable and sliding sleeve, okay, which is a nice feature. Really nice feature because it means that it's pocket safe, but you still get the advantages of that extendable hypodermic lead sleeve. And it's also kind of reminiscent of the retro feel of like the Kohinoor Rapid-O-Matic or the Alvin Draft-Matic, but has some more modern styling and features to it. Really high quality, great pencil. I think it deserves to have its own slot on the list. And you know, many of you have noticed that it's not really 10, right? Okay? Because several pencils are occupying more than one slot. People like round numbers. I'm going to call it my top 10 list, but there's some pencils that I don't want to drop off the list that I sort of feel need mention. And so I feel pretty confident tying the Delgard type ER and LX, and I feel pretty confident in the next slot tying a pencil that is not available at retail anymore, the Rotring 600 Newton, which is a retractable version of the 600. Different from the original 600 in that it does not have the knurling. It has a conical retractable lead sleeve. It's a double knock mechanism, and so it disappears, and then you can extend it out by knocking the mechanism. Okay. And I'm going to tie the Rotring 600 with the Rotring 800. There's a little bit of a controversy brewing right now about the Rotring 800 in the mechanical pencil world, in that people are asking the question, well, let me backtrack. The Rotring 800, one of the big issues people have with it is lead wobble at the end of the tip. And people have modded Rotring 800 to reduce that lead wobble. I don't think that that's big of a deal for me, but I think it is going to be a turnoff for some people, so keep that in mind. There's a newer version of the Rotring 800 that has been produced by Sanford, who owns Rotring, that has a new metal piece in the mechanism. And folks, as a scientist, when I approach that issue, I want to consider all the variables, but I also want to consider what the variables do. And in looking at this new metal piece that has replaced a plastic piece, okay, great. Metal is generally better than plastic. Metal is more durable than plastic. Metal is less likely to have issues with lead dust sticking to the pieces and everything. Okay, metal is important. But in looking at where that metal piece is, right now, I am not convinced that it is really doing anything to fix the problem that the people have with the 800. I think we have a tendency as human beings to really wish for and want something. We want the Rotring 800 to be the perfect mechanical pencil, but wishing for it and wanting it does not mean that a change in the pencil is actually fixing the issue. And I'm not convinced right now that that little metal piece that has replaced the plastic piece is really doing anything to fix that issue. Granted, I don't have a copy of that pencil, and I'm not saying that I don't trust other people. But I'm just saying that until I get one in hand, and it's kind of an expensive risk to take, okay, until I get one in hand, I'm not convinced that the new 800 is all that different. And then finally on the list, still at the top, not going to apologize for this, is the Rotring 600. Maybe not very feature rich because it's essentially just a 4mm drafting lead sleeve with a really nice mechanical pencil body. Doesn't have an extendable eraser or any special mechanism features or anything like that. But in terms of weight and quality and construction and what it is, Rotring 600 is still at the top of my list. Now, folks, some of you are going to disagree with me, and that's okay. Write about it in the comments, okay? What do you see on this list that you don't think deserves to be on this list? What would you like to see on the list that I didn't include, that you personally have a connection with? I dropped the Rotring Rapid Pro and I dropped the Twisty Precision because of the weighting issue. But, you know, folks, it's okay for us to disagree. That's part of why we have a hobby around this. If everybody agreed on it, then there wouldn't be any reason for me to post videos about it, right? And so this is an opportunity for us to share our personal opinions, talk about what we value, maybe find some common ground in pencils that are really good pencils. The next video that I'm going to do is going to be an honorable mentions video that's going to go through a lot of pencils that are not on this list that I think are really good pencils for you to check out. And just because they're not on the top 10 list doesn't mean that there isn't value in them, or it doesn't mean that you shouldn't check it out. So thanks for watching. Appreciate you coming to Clutch Situation and watching these videos. If we can share something about our shared mechanical pencil hobby, I really appreciate that. And have a great day. I got to get to mowing the lawn.